and welcome. My name is Wynne. Today is Sunday, and that is the normal day for me to be uploading my video each week. But I've been struggling a little bit this week with my mood. This has unfortunately been the only time that I've had to record my video, but I still wanted to get it done. I am going to try my hardest to upload it today. Apologies though if it is a day late. I do appreciate your support, whether you're a regular viewer and or subscriber, or whether you're just here for today. I really do appreciate it. Today is not only the start of a new series on my channel, but also football day. My family, who are not football supporters at all, are currently downstairs watching it, but I didn't want to, so depends how kind of into it they get, but if you hear some cheering or strange noises, that's because, yeah, it's football time. So, as I said, new series. For the next, I believe, 6 Cushing uploads, I will be discussing Amicus Productions' portmanteau films. There are, I believe, actually 7 films in total, but one of them doesn't star Cushing. I am planning on one day talking about The Vault of Horror, which is the one that doesn't star Cushing, but I will probably leave that for a separate video in which I discuss non-Cushing portmanteaus, because I do own a number of those that weren't even produced by Amicus even. So that will be coming eventually. The Vault of Horror is still absolutely amazing. It's got a brilliant cast, as they all have, to be honest. I know I'm often going on about cast members of films, but the cast really does help. Even if the plot of a film is absolutely awful, as long as you have a good director and a good cast, then things should be at least somewhat watchable. Today I am going to be talking about the first of Amicus's portmanteau films, which is Dr. Terror's House of Horrors. I have the limited edition steelbook, which they only produced 4,000 copies of. I don't know if you can still get hold of it. It came out, I think, possibly 2015. I will check. They're all individually numbered. I don't know if that's going to have a bit of a weird reflection. I think that's okay. So as you can see, my copy is number 2233. And yeah, the packaging is amazing. It's also, I kept the little cover thing with the rating and the little synopsis on the back, and then it's got a booklet, which I think I mentioned before. I love it when DVD or a Blu-ray in this case has those little extras in there. I really enjoy reading about like kind of the history of the film and the on-set secrets. This is the original poster, and then that's the disc. It is a Blu-ray. I don't tend to buy Blu-rays, and I know that some people will really hate me for that, but I like the fact that with a DVD, generally speaking, you can watch it anywhere. Blu-ray players can be quite expensive, and probably, you know, when I live in my own house, because I do, sorry, it's not COVID, I just had some ice cream and it's going to clog me up a bit. I do have a couple of Blu-rays that I got either because they weren't available on DVD, or I think I've got Passengers on Blu-ray, which is not a classic horror film, in case you don't know that one. And it was given to me as a Christmas present, and I've kept it because I like the special features, so I have that. I've also got like Suicide Squad extended cut on Blu-ray, and a couple of kind of DVD Blu-ray packs. So like my Skull DVD is DVD and Blu-ray. It's the one thing that I would change about this is the fact that it's just Blu-ray. But you know, it's got a brilliant documentary on the disc that isn't that doesn't appear on the DVD. My dad has the DVD. It's obviously remastered as well, but you know, I'm not particularly snobbish about the quality of the print. I mean, obviously it needs to be watchable, but I also acknowledge that these films are of a certain era, and that remastering a DVD can be quite difficult sometimes. DVD, film, whatever. It doesn't bother me. Which, you know, it doesn't bother me to the point that I feel the need to get rid of all my DVDs in favour of Blu-rays. And I particularly think if you're getting an animated film or a black and white film, animated in particular, I personally don't see the need for Blu-ray in those cases. But you know, I have the, I'm sure I've spoken about it before, I have the Basil Rathbone Sherlock Holmes collection, and they're all black and white, and they've all been remastered, and they look, and they do look absolutely pristine. It's wonderful. But the point is, they're not Blu-ray, and I don't know how they could make them look better. But there you go. I believe Dr. Terror's House of Horrors was the first classic horror film that I actually saw. I have mentioned on this channel in, I think, my second video, where I spoke about where and how my love of classic horror films, particularly those starring Peter Cushing, began. The first classic horror film that kind of got me into it, I suppose, was Dracula from 1931. But I think, I have a feeling I had seen Dr. Terror's House of Horrors years before. I'm not sure, honestly. I can't remember when I saw it, but I do remember that my brother watched it with us. He is less keen on the gothic kind of period set ones that Hammer tend to do, but you know, but he does quite like the portmanteaus, and I have shown a number of my friends who are not really into older films some of the portmanteaus, and I think, in my experience, people of my age who are not particularly familiar with this kind of film prefer what were then modern set films, and all the portmanteaus are. Yeah, I find, first of all, I think it's interesting because I love Amicus, but I would probably say that between Hammer and Amicus, I'd plump for Hammer, because of the period setting. I love period set things, and you know, as much as I love history, but obviously I do love Amicus too, particularly because, well, I suppose it's interesting reflecting on the fact that the first like colour classic horror that I saw was an Amicus film. So this one in particular, Dr. Terror, is always going to have a special place in my heart. This was released, I think, a couple of years after my obsession had begun. The same year as The Skull was finally released in this country. I got them both for Christmas. In terms of receiving presents, that was like the best Christmas because I got these two amazing objects. So this is one of my babies because it's individually numbered, and there are a limited number of these available. It didn't cost the earth, which is nice. I think it was about £20. And you know, it's very niche. There aren't, I doubt there are many of them kind of going for silly amounts of cash at auctions, but sorry, wasn't a COVID cough, I promise. But I'm very glad I have it. I do find it difficult when talking about the portmanteaus to kind of settle on my favourite. I think I do have a favourite, and you're going to have to wait until a couple more videos into this series. But I would say that Terror is probably a close second or third. In part because it was the first one that I saw, and also it was the first one that the studio did. I'm trying to see if I can remember all the stories. I mean, the cast, brilliant as always. We've got Donald Sutherland, who people that are kind of somewhat out of this loop and younger people will recognise as President Snow in the Hunger Games series. And then Christopher Lee, because this is a Cushing. So that's Roy Castle, who also starred in the first Cushing Doctor Who film, which I am hopefully going to be doing a video on soon. I just want to, I got the two Doctor Who films starring Cushing in a box set. I need to finish the second one. And then Neil McCallum and Alan Freeman. So looking at that, I don't think I can remember the order, so I might just look inside the booklet. I do know that the first one is the werewolf story. The actress that stars as the owner of this strange werewolf haunted house. Is she in here? Ursula Howells, yeah. She has been in a number of other Amicus films. I believe she's certainly in Torture Garden, I know that for a fact, which is obviously a film that I will possibly be talking about next, if I remember rightly. Yes, she's in it, and it's the one with Neil McCallum, who I don't know very well, admittedly. Katie Wilde as well, who was in The Evil of Frankenstein, and then Peter Madden, who is a very commanding actor indeed. We do love Peter Madden. I like the werewolf one. I remember, you know, reading the notes in this and looking at reviews and watching documentaries. I think a lot of people seem to think this is quite a weak one because plot-wise it doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't feel that at all. I do really like this one, and I remember the first time I watched it being quite frightened as a child, possibly younger than 12. Oh, Dad. And yeah, this one scared me because it has a twist at the end, and I'm not going to reveal that twist because I've decided we'll keep this one spoiler free, but I like the twist at the end. It's positively ghoulish. So I like the werewolf one. Is it my favourite segment? No. Again, choosing my favourite segment. They are all brilliant, and I know that I've said that several times, probably too many times already during this video, even though I've only been going for like nearly 15 minutes, which isn't long in comparison to my other videos. I do think, though, that whilst all of the portmanteaus are brilliant, this one is particularly strong on the stories. Not least because the framing story with Cushing's Dr. Terror is so brilliant. And the kind of, I suppose, the meaning behind the the framing story as to kind of the identity of Dr. Terror is, of course, pretty grim as well. And I think, yeah, it's good. It's not a completely new idea, and it's certainly done again in some of the other portmanteaus. But I think because this is the first one, and because I suppose audiences were being introduced to a new kind of film and a new sort of twist-filled formula, which was new, I think the twist works especially well in this first film. And it certainly was that way for the audience at the time as well, but you know, all of the portmanteaus did very well as far as I'm aware, so it doesn't bother me as a fan that later in the series some of the framing stories are a little bit weaker, because it's about the short stories first and foremost, because I realise I've not explained, so apologies if you don't know what a portmanteau is. It's a film with lots of linking stories, short stories of about 20 minutes long each, and then kind of an overarching framing stories that links all the characters together. And I remember there's a documentary on special features of Tales from the Crypt, in which they interview Reece Shearsmith, one of the League of Gentlemen, and he is a huge Amicus fan. And I remember that he said that one of the things he likes about the portmanteaus is that if you don't like the first story, there'll be another one coming along in 20 minutes. So I think there's definitely something in it for everyone. Okay, The Creeping Vine. I like this one because, well, it's very Day of the Triffids, and I know at the time, obviously, I know that now, reflecting on it, I know that it's very obviously inspired by the Triffids. At the time, I didn't really know. I didn't know what the Triffids were. I do have the 1962 film Day of the Triffids, and it's brilliant. One day I will read the novel by John Wyndham. I just have too many things to read. And I did kind of go through a phase of like reading quite a bit. Sorry, I feel like this top is quite clingy, and I possibly shouldn't have worn a long sleeve top because it's actually quite hot up here, so I do apologise. I will eventually... Sorry, no, what I was saying is that I did have a period of time where I was reading an awful lot, and I've kind of hit another slump because unfortunately my depression takes my love and ability to read away from me, but that's fine. Eventually I will read Day of the Triffids. Sorry, I'm gonna have to have some water. I do apologise. Very nice ice cream, but it has like really I've possibly not had enough like to drink today. And no, I don't mean alcoholic. I don't drink alcohol really. The Creeping Vine, as it's called according to this booklet, and I'm glad I have it because otherwise I wouldn't necessarily know the names and stories, is again one that has been ruled as one of the weakest stories. I really like this one. Like I think let me see. This one would probably be in my 1, 2, 3, like my top 4. And like I feel a bit mean. Actually, I feel that's a bit odd saying that, and possibly a bit mean, because there are 5 stories in total and then I'm discounting the first one. But I think, yeah, if I were to put them in order, Werewolf would be at the bottom. I think maybe... I don't know, it's really difficult. But yeah, I really do. It's difficult because all of these stories are brilliant. I think for me, the weakest one is the werewolf one, but I still do like that one quite a lot. I feel it's a good one to start with. Creeping Vine. Yes, so very Day of the Triffids. It's, I suppose it's probably one of kind of three comedic stories, but then the ending is rather bleak. I know that a lot of people didn't like Alan Freeman in this role because, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he was a radio DJ and not an actor, but I like him in this. And then there's a little girl, Sarah Nichols, I believe, who was, I think, she might have been in Day of the Triffids, unless I'm confusing her with somebody else, possibly. But yes, she's very good. Lovely dog as well. Anne Bell, who I think played Mary Morstan in Cushing Sherlock Holmes, and Bernard Lee as well, if you're a fan of Bond. I realise like I'm just telling you the cast. I really love this film, and I know that I say that with most of the films on this channel, but yes, the Creeping Vine one I think is particularly good and so much better than the werewolf one, but even then I do really like the werewolf one. This is certainly a plot that doesn't really allow you time to sort of rest, so I suppose it makes sense that next we have Voodoo, which is an even more comedic one. So Rory Castle, who I really do like as an actor, and obviously he was a brilliant musician, but unfortunately, for those of you that didn't know, he died of lung cancer as a result of passive smoking in the jazz clubs that he worked in. He nearly didn't get the part, but then the actor that they had initially cast, I believe, had a heart attack. I think he recovered from it. I hope he did. But yeah, I mean, it mentioned his death, and fortunately, Castle's death. So this story, something I really like about this one is the music. I mean, soundtrack is a highly important part of any film. I think any TV series, anything that you're going to watch, particularly if there's a narrative. I'm not sure of the composer, I'm afraid. I will put it up on the screen. I do know that this is a Freddie Francis directed film, which is another reason why it is so brilliant. I'm sure I've mentioned before that I would say that Freddie Francis is only kind of, would be second only to Terence Fisher, who was predominantly a Hammer director, whereas Freddie Francis, I don't believe ever worked for Hammer. He did a lot for Amicus, and also speaking of Day of the Triffids, he directed a segment that was added in, kind of post-production, because the film wasn't long enough, because they'd cut out a load of stuff. But I do really love the music in this. We have a couple of vocal pieces. I don't know the name of the actor, and I'm so sorry, but they have a singer that they tour with, this band, and he does a very good job. And the premise is that Biff Bailey, as Castle's character is known, steals a piece of ancient voodoo music and gets his comeuppance for it. But it is indeed a very groovy piece of music, so can we blame him? There's also there's a scene where we have a sort of Van Luten-esque walk, most famously, I believe, in fact, used for the first time in Cat People, the original Cat People, not the one scored by David Bowie. And that is also, so that works very well. This one is very good in terms of the suspense, because you think it's going to be the fun one, but it definitely it begins to twist at the end. I do also believe that at the end of that scene that I just mentioned, he comes face to face with the poster for the film. Little Easter egg in there. The next one we have is simply called The Disembodied Hand. This one I think is probably the most famous in the film. Certainly it's given a lot of exposure in the trailer. This one immediately makes me think of The Beast with Five Fingers, which is a story featured in Fear on Four, which was a radio series which kind of ran from like the late 80s to the early 90s. It's a ghost story series narrated by the wonderful Edward D'Souza as the Man in Black, and then reruns of it. For reruns of it, they've cast Mark Gatiss as the new Man in Black. I will one day talk about radio because I love film, but I also love radio. I think, as painful as it is to say, if I had to choose one or the other, I would probably choose radio, just because I think spoken radio has an immersive quality that I think film doesn't have. They have different aspects to them, and I love them both, but I just think I love the dramas that you can visualise so completely without the need for music necessarily, or being able to see the things that are happening in the story. But I do obviously love film an awful lot. The Beast of Five Fingers I think was based on a short story. I could be wrong, I will check. And it is again about a disembodied hand that sort of, I don't know how to do this without kind of like moves like this. Certainly in the Amicus one. They reused this hand, Amicus did, for many films. So, you know, it was worth it. And this one is Christopher Lee's little segment. He plays a very kind of pompous art critic, and then by the end of the train journey, after seeing his possible fate, he changes an awful lot. Sort of scared into submission, if you will. This one also has Michael Gough in it, who starred alongside Lee in, The Skull is the one that I think of straight away because it's my favourite Peter Cushing film. I've said before, not necessarily his best film or his best role, but it's just my favourite one. But he's also in Dracula from 1958, playing Arthur Homewood. This one is again very good, and I don't know how to choose a favourite. I don't think I could actually choose a favourite. This is ridiculous. This one, I think, has more of a moral kind of comeuppance tied to it. Definitely the victims, if you will, in The Werewolf, the Triffid-esque, and the Triffid-esque stories don't necessarily deserve what happens to them. Not that anyone really should have a bad thing happen to them. I don't believe that it's a good way to deal with mean people, but I know that it's how kind of classic storytelling works. But yeah, the saddest ones are the ones in which people really can't avoid their fate, whereas both Roy Castle and Christopher Lee in this film do some bad juju. Then lastly we have The Vampire Story, which has Donald Sutherland. I know that famously Donald Sutherland didn't like this film, but I think he's very good in this film. I just beat myself there, sorry. There's also Jennifer Jane, who, if I remember rightly, was behind the screenplay for Tales That Witness Madness, which is a portmanteau that I will feature in my non-Cushing portmanteau video. And it is a vampire segment. Yeah, I like this one as well. You really do, feel for poor little Donald Sutherland, or Bob, by the end of it. The kind of vampire lore is a little bit interesting, doesn't quite add up, but you know, again, they only have 20 minutes, and given the kind of the reveal at the end, I do think this is a very good one to end on. Yeah, I don't think, not that this is a question that you were necessarily thinking of, but I don't think I would reorder these segments if I could. I think they work very well in the order that they appear. As I said, this one is a particularly good one in terms of consistently well written stories. And yeah, I'll admit that of the group, Neil McCallum is, I think, probably the weakest of the actors, but as I said, I still really like that segment, even though if I were to rate them, I wouldn't put that one at the top. I wanted to be able to get to the end of this video and be able to tell you what my favourite segment is. I'm afraid I don't think I know. I don't think I can give you an answer, and I'm so sorry. But yes, I love this film. Please do watch it if you haven't already. Certainly if you're going to embark upon the discovery of these films for the first time, do start at the beginning, just because it sets up, I suppose, it sets up the company, it sets up the history of Amicus. Just as a fun fact before I close, for those of you that don't know, Milton Subotsky and Max J. Rosenberg chose this format inspired by the 1945 film Dead of Night, which is probably one of the scariest horror films I've ever seen. I absolutely love it. It's not so scary that I would never watch it again. Yes, I suspect I should probably talk about that particular film someday. So thank you so much for watching. Apologies if this one dragged a bit. I'm slightly worried that it did. I'm a little bit out of it, but I hope that it was enjoyable, at least somewhat. I think, unfortunately, given the time and how I'm feeling right now, I think I am going to upload this video tomorrow because I do have quite a bit of editing to do. Thank you so much for bearing with me, and I will be back next week, I believe, to talk about Torch Garden, if I remember the order of the films correctly. And then for the non-Cushing video, because I do 2 Cushing videos and a non-Cushing one, if I have the dates right, I have a bit of a surprise for you, so watch this space. Take care all of you, and thank you so much for watching. Bye!